the communities we are living in, there's a lot of fear. You get shootings on a daily basis. There's been instances where kids have been killed in crossfire.
There are guys that just walk around the township not knowing what they'll eat next.
Gangsterism, crime, violence, unemployment.
Living in a one-room shack with your brother, your mom, and cousins come now and then. For me, I feel like I never had that privacy, man. When it comes to the ocean, just sitting on a chair and just feeling the breeze, breathing in and out, is therapeutic in itself. So you add stuff like meditating, surfing, that's like so extraordinary.
Water brings the sense of calmness, peacefulness. The ocean doesn't judge me.
Cape Town in South Africa is one of the world's most beautiful cities. With its endless coastline and an abundance of natural beauty, the mother city, as it's affectionately known, is a magnet for tourists. But for those who live on the outskirts, life is no holiday. Every time Cape Town wakes up, on average 8 of its residents were murdered the day before.
Police are investigating the motive for the shooting, which claimed the lives of 6 people at a house in Khayelitsha on the Cape Flats.
In July 2019, 43 people were killed in a single weekend. Most of the violence occurs in what South Africans refer to as townships. These sprawling, unofficial cities within cities are usually underdeveloped and racially segregated urban areas. Cramped and lacking basic services like running water and sanitation, they are relics of the apartheid regime. With nearly 1 in every 3 South Africans unemployed, most of them black and mixed race, informal settlements are rife with gangsterism and violence. Often the only way to get food on the table is to turn to crime. Many children experience violence and crime firsthand at an early age, so much so that it becomes normal. That's where Waves for Change comes in.
Go, go, AJ, go, go, go!
A non-profit organization that uses surfing to give young people something to believe in. And this is where our story begins. I'm Lance Santos, and I've come back to the country that I will always call home to find out how sport is once again bringing our people together and giving hope to a community that is often forgotten about. Waves for Change offers young South Africans an alternative to life on the streets. After school, youngsters take part in guided lessons, learning to swim, surf, and most importantly, how to survive in the townships.
We're working with children who are experiencing a lot of stress and trauma. They're exposed to a lot of adversity, and there are not a lot of services in their community to help them cope with that. So we run activities and sessions where they get to form a sense of belonging, a healthy peer group. We help them form positive sense of identity so that they feel good about themselves, they value themselves, they're feeling more confident, and they get access to a caring adult, which is a key part of child and youth development.
The first thing that's apparent to me is how happy the children are. They want to be here. Waves for Change provides a space where these youngsters are safe for a few hours a day. The smiling faces and enthusiasm could fool you into thinking this is a regular after-school activity, but it soon becomes apparent that it's more than just playtime. As the children set foot on the sand, they kick things off with a song and a dance. And all the mentors will tell you it's important to start the session on a positive note.
Sometimes some of the kids woke up, didn't have any breakfast or anything to eat, coming to school, feeling like angry all day. And when they come to Waves of Change, we just try to uplift their spirit. That's why we do the energizers, playing all the games. And just to change their mindset from angry to happy, it's like something big, because that puts a smile on my face as well.
And smile they do as the coaches lift the mood and get everyone dancing to the same beat.
1, 2, 3. Hey! 1, 2, 3. Hey! Don't follow your friend. If your friend goes to happy.
The program then shifts to unpacking the day's emotions. How do you feel today?
So if you feel happy, you go to happiness. If you feel sad, go to sad.
Most head for happy or excited, but a few make their way over to sad. These children are no older than 12 yet. They're learning to acknowledge and take ownership of their feelings. It's part of the impressive safety net that Waves for Change has established.
So we're very aware that we can't change the context that the children live in. Hopefully we can change how they feel in those spaces and the choices that they make in those spaces.
Once the Energizer is over and the warm-up is done, the coaches have identified how each child is feeling, and they can move on to the day's therapy.
Before anyone steps foot in the water, the coaches and the kids split off into smaller groups. This is known as a Take 5 session, where the kids can express how they're feeling in front of their peers, so they can tell their coaches if they're feeling sad, if they've had a bad week, or if something's made them angry, something that's happened at home or in the township. This is so crucial for these young kids from these deprived areas to be able to tell their coaches how they're feeling, and also to feel comfortable in expressing themselves and saying, hang on guys, I'm not okay.
With guidance, the children work out and discuss what it is they're feeling and why. They learn how to process emotion. The next activity sends excitement levels sky high. In the ocean, these boys and girls from some of South Africa's most impoverished areas forget, if only for a few hours, that they've been born into a world of inequality, a life they didn't choose, and an existence that will be hard to escape. But for now, those worries are far from their minds as they have the freedom to be children. Waves for Change supports around 1,500 young people at 3 different sites in Cape Town: Monwabisi Beach, Muizenberg and Hout Bay. In 2017, the organisation was recognised by the Laureus Foundation with a Sport for Good award. And youngsters aren't the only ones who benefit. Every session is meticulously planned and every class has a purpose. Those who teach them have their own remarkable stories.
So I got in not knowing what to expect, and I basically fell in love with the kids. I mean, pushing a kid into a wave and seeing them smile, for me, is a highlight.
Anele Theobeka coaches with a smile on his face. His optimism is contagious and his sessions are bursting with energy. Waves for Change selects mentors from the same communities as the children. These young men and women share a history with those who they aim to inspire. Opportunities are scarce and Anele has grabbed his with both hands. But he could easily have ended up on another path.
So my brother grew up, he's older than me, so he became addicted to Turk and had the chance to go trial for Liverpool in England. I'm not sure whether it's England or what, but he missed his flight, and ever since then he's been on a West stage, and for me that has always gotten to me, man. I've tried to take him to rehabs and stuff, but he rebounces into the same thing again. And things like, I mean, living in a one-room shack with your brother, your mom, and cousins come now and then. For me, I feel like I never had that privacy, man.
To better understand what Anele meant, I took a drive into Khayelitsha, Cape Town's largest township. Water and electricity infrastructure is minimal. Toilets are communal and extended families are crammed into tiny houses made from corrugated iron and plastic sheeting. Each day, hundreds of thousands of people make the journey into the city, working as manual laborers or domestic helpers for the minimum wage, which is around $1 an hour. Some do what work they can within the community, collecting glass and plastic for recycling. It doesn't pay much, but it's better than nothing. Survival comes before pride in Khayelitsha.
This is the South Africa that you don't see on postcards, a sprawling metropolis of shacks stacked side by side. Life for those who live here is very different compared to those who reside in Cape Town's more affluent suburbs, which are only a 30-minute drive away. But this is the reality of Cape Town. Half of its population live in townships like this.
It's easy to see why crime is so rife. To the children who live here, gangsters have access to many of the things they want: money, cars, clothes, regular meals. A sharp contrast to living off scraps. And that is why Waves for Change is doing more than just educating young people. The mentors are paid and these programs become their livelihood.
The coaches are the beating heart of this organization. They too are from the township, so they know exactly how the young children will be feeling. They've been there themselves, but more importantly, these young men and women have a purpose in life. They are role models, and their leadership extends far beyond these beaches.
Buddy Alfred Trump has been a Waves for Change mentor for less than a year, but he's already grasped the impact of his role. The coaches are totally invested, as the job is full-time and comes with immense responsibility. Every single one of them knows that what they do on the beach could save lives on the streets.
You get shootings on a daily basis, and for me as an adult, I'm scared to walk to the shop. How does a kid feel? There's been instances where kids have been killed in crossfire, caught in crossfire, and nothing is being done towards it. So for me to help the kids when they are at the beach and to let them forget about those things at home that happens there, it's just, for me, it helps me also to go tonight and sleep. When I go sleep, I feel like, wow, another kid has been saved from something that happened in the afternoon while they were being at the beach with us as with Waves for Change.
This is Monwabisi Beach, a a stone's throw from Khayelitsha, it's desperately in need of a makeover. The surrounding buildings are derelict and tourists rarely come here.
So a few years ago, if you came to this particular beach as a Khayelitsha local, it may well have been the last time you were seen alive. When Waves for Change first came to this site, Monwabisi Beach, the gangsters chased them away, and that's because those gangs used to use this beach as a dumping ground to get rid of bodies.
The criminals have moved on for now. Through Waves for Change, the community is slowly reclaiming the beach. By teaching young people how to swim and surf, the organization is empowering a generation. In years to come, these children could be lifeguards or surf instructors or even just play a role in the tourism industry. The ocean is and will always be a source of employment in Cape Town, and now, for the first time in generations, many Khayelitsha residents are comfortable in the water.
So these are some of the youngest and newest kids to the program, and as you can see behind me, they're learning the basics of being in the water. The coaches are doing an amazing job at getting them confident, and right now they're doing the floating exercise. So the program may seem like it's all about surfing, but here with the young kids, they're learning the values of trust and communication. They hold each other up and they get that confidence in the water.
Waves for Change is doing something special in Cape Town. Watching these children smile and learn has touched me. This is no photo op charity. The smiles are worth their weight in gold when you consider the struggles they face every day at home. But it's not lost on me that every single child here is black or mixed race. Apartheid ended in 1994, yet South Africa remains economically and socially divided. Nelson Mandela, perhaps the most famous of all South Africa's sons, was sentenced to life in prison for plotting to overthrow the state. Madiba, as he was affectionately known, spent his life fighting against racial discrimination.
It's impossible not to feel a huge sense of shame and embarrassment and sorrow when you see that a man like Nelson Mandela was put behind these four walls without proper bedding, without proper food. The psychological trauma that the prisoners were forced to go through for 27 years, it's heartbreaking. But then at the same time, being here, it's also inspiring to think that someone can be put through that, someone can be tortured, and somebody can be humiliated after all of that, after those 27 years, a life gone, to come back and try and unite the country through reconciliation is beyond words.
Robben Island is completely cut off from Cape Town by water. Those held here have very little contact with the outside world. Sport was one of the only freedoms left. To this day, there are still rugby posts, goals, and a running track on the island. It becomes clear why Nelson Mandela loved sport so much. It was a chance to bring people together, even under the most horrific conditions. Madiba once said that sport has the power to change the world. But was this the South Africa he pictured more than a quarter of a century into democracy? Sport can't feed the hungry, and for most, it'll never pay the bills. 50 years of racial segregation and discrimination are still tearing this country apart. Apartheid may be gone, but its shadow still looms large over Cape Town. I wanted to find out how difficult it is to break the cycle, and how today's youth are still influenced by the past. So I caught up with my old schoolmate Lungani Zama, who is now an award-winning South African sports writer.
Gone throughout the city and we've seen the vast topography just in terms of finances. You sit in Sea Point on the Atlantic seaboard and you're overlooking some of the richest and most affluent suburbs in the country, and some of them in the world actually. And then you come on this side, you go to Khayelitsha,
And you could be in a favela in Brazil, you could be in a slum in India. It's like running a 100-meter race with the Sea Point Brigade at least 80 meters ahead of you. It's an impossible thing to change overnight.
Ways for Change can't help every single child, and so the organization selects youngsters who have the telltale signs of depression, anxiety, or severe stress.
A child's ability to serve at the beginning and even at the end is not for us a measure of success. A lot of the children, for them, success is just going into the water. The mental health impact we've got on children is a much better indicator of whether our program is successful or not, and whether we can teach them coping skills that they can take back at home. If there's been violence in the community, if there's been fighting in the house, if they've been exposed to substance abuse, those are the things that we look at and track to see whether our program is successful or not.
In a community where real-life role models are few and far between, Ways for Change is producing leaders to fill the void. Melreen de Villiers is one of them. Mel used to be a Ways for Change coach, but moved up the ranks and is now the organization's program and monitoring officer. Like many of the project's children, Mel grew up in Lavender Hill, an area plagued by gang violence.
You can be easily pulled into the gang that provides. So most of these kids don't get what the gangs provide them with clothing, food, money, shelter. If I'm a small kid and the uncle is giving me that, I would go run and take it. And that's how they recruit the young people at the age of 13 and 14 and up.
After a few years with the program, Mel noticed that Ways for Change mostly attracted boys, so she made it her mission to shake things up. Melreen's efforts are already bearing fruit. Annalise Mhloli is a Ways for Change coach from Khayelitsha. Her life began as a struggle, but it is now filled with ambition and hope.
Losing my mother and my father at the same time, and having to grow up when I wasn't ready, and my sister having the burden of being a parent at a young age, overcoming that, going to bed without eating, going to school with broken shoes, but seeing the bigger picture and knowing that it doesn't stop here. I have a bright future in front of me, and that's something that I feel is the reason I am proud of myself. I've come a long way, and I'm still going a long way still. So yeah.
I came to South Africa expecting to do a story on an organization that used surfing to get young people off the streets. Ways for Change is that, but it's so much more. It's an initiative that inspires and empowers the youth of this country who have been left behind. Through mentoring and therapy, children learn to make better decisions. The ocean for so long has been a place of fear, now it's their safe haven.
My mom was totally against me being in the ocean. But because I loved what I did at the time, I kept going. She'd say, don't go to the beach, I'd go to the beach, come back home, get a hiding, but tomorrow I'll do the same thing.
And she must be proud.
Yeah, she must be very proud. She is proud of me. And she's currently living in the Eastern Cape now, so I send her a little money now and then whenever I can. So yeah.
The coaches have become counsellors in communities with few social services. Not only do they teach and care for the children, they've also become a shoulder to cry on and a mentor to look up to. Together, they're one big family, hell-bent on sticking up for each other.
I feel the change in myself, and like I say, before I can change a child's mindset, I have to start with myself. And that is, it's the most wonderful thing for me as a coach to pass on to the kids as well.
As Nelson Mandela said, sport, has the power to change the world. People like Anele, Buddy and Annalise are the heroes South Africa needs. And slowly but surely, the tide is turning.